The book, Forgiving What You Can't Forget. And it's not just for me, it's for other people out there who are having issues with forgiveness and issues with letting go of the past. Because, I mean, there's a lot of us out there. And it's definitely not an easy road. Like I said last night, I was watching something at my daughter's grandma's house, and it triggered me thinking about the past and, how things were not good. So it's like, you know what? This is crazy. Gotta do better. All right, so we're starting on chapter 4. And chapter 4 is, how is forgiveness even possible when I feel like this? I walked into my appointment with, whoops, I gotta get comfortable so I'm comfortable. Okay, here we go. I walked into my appointment with my counselor, Jim, wishing I'd canceled. But this wasn't a typical hour-long appointment. It was an all-day intensive, too costly to blow off. I hadn't been sleeping well. My eyes were puffy, and I couldn't remember for the life of me if I'd put deodorant on. Awesome. I wondered if the peach air freshener I'd seen before in the office bathroom could work in a pinch. I made a mental note to try it during our next bathroom break. And see, that's crazy too, because when the situation happened with me and my kid's dad, the way he, cheated and kicked us out of the house and stuff, I remember, I didn't have a job, didn't have a driver's license, none of that, and I remember having to go, and apply for welfare. No, I think I already had welfare, but I had to let them know what was going on, the situation that was going on with me, because they, make you do certain things. If you're getting a cash grant from the government, you're going to have to jump through hoops and engage in job search and this and that, right? And I remember I was just so disheveled and just didn't even care about nothing anymore. They literally ordered me to take a drug test. They thought I was on drugs way back then because I was depressed about my kid's dad cheating on me and, leaving me to raise kids on my own. So I ended up, taking a drug test, and of course I passed because I wasn't on drugs then. You know what I mean? But that's how messed up in the head I was. I just didn't even care anymore. So they're like, oh yeah, look at her. She's looking crazy. We need to see what's up. Something's seriously wrong. Look at how she's looking. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a nightmare. I felt utterly unmotivated to talk and overly motivated to cry. My hair was heavy with dry shampoo and tangled from a lack of proper brushing. I tried to no avail to smooth it down with my hands before twisting it up haphazardly in a top knot, fully aware I should have washed it 2 days ago. But who has that kind of energy when life feels suddenly emptied out in the most unfair of ways? Empty has a heaviness to it that doesn't exactly motivate one to care what they look like I just said. Jim, I don't know how to forgive this. He isn't sorry for what happened. Neither are some of the other people involved in this situation who also hurt me. They don't think they did anything wrong. They have no feelings around this at all. They are off just enjoying the mess out of life. And here I am sitting in a counselor's office so full of hurt feelings that I wonder if it's possible for me to drown in my own tears. How can I possibly work on forgiveness when not 1 ounce of me feels like forgiving? I don't want to do this. I may be a total wreck right now, but one thing I'm not is fake. And yeah, I totally get where she's coming from. Like I say, sometimes reading this book, I feel attacked because everything that she's describing is precisely how I felt when I went through the same thing. And it's true, He never apologized for cheating. And then the funny thing is, like I told y'all before, he literally blamed me for it. Like I said, early in our relationship, he believed an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Until he was caught cheating on me across town. Instead of helping me take care of our child, then all of a sudden, hey, Deborah, it's all your fault. Yep. I fully expected him to recognize that it clearly wasn't time for me to work on forgiveness and that we needed to switch the day's focus. There were plenty of other things I could clearly benefit from tackling. Personal hygiene, for example, might be an obvious choice. I don't remember what Jim said to all of my resistance. I just remember we stayed the course, and what I learned about forgiveness that day changed my life. Jim didn't seem a bit concerned that I didn't have the desire to forgive or that my feelings weren't cooperating. It almost seemed like the intensity of my resistance made doing this exercise on this day more appropriate in his estimation, not less. That confused me. I certainly didn't want to add forgiveness failure on top of everything else I was beating myself up about in this season. It was definitely time to go find that peach air freshener. When I returned smelling like a freshly baked cobbler, Jim handed me a stack of 3x5 cards. Lisa, do you have the desire to heal from this? I nodded my head yes. I did want to heal. I did want to start making my way out of this pit where everything felt dark and confusing and hopeless. But I thought in order to start healing, I needed to feel better than I did about my circumstances and about the people involved. Ow. At that point, so much felt unsettled in many of my relationships. When a person's life explodes, people around them have different reactions. You see the very best forms of compassion in most people, but not in everyone. I hadn't just lost what I thought was true in my marriage. I was also trying to navigate the shock of all the unpredictable ways people had reacted to what happened. I knew it would take me years to sort through the fallout, but by far the most complicated reality at that time was that I hadn't seen Art in months. We were separated, and there were layers of complicated realities that prevented us from being able to sit down together and process what happened. Now, see, with me being a Christian and all, even though, I'm not going to lie, I was backslidden for many, many, many years, right? But as a Christian, people, they'll argue this point, till they're blue in the face, whatever it is, what it is. But from my understanding, if you're married to somebody, legally married, even if you're separated and they're way across town in another state or another country, it's still cheating. Oh, well, we were on a break or we were separated. Like, that's going to absolve them. If you're legally married, you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're cheating. And I remember, I was really angry about this after I was fool enough to go back to the kid's dad, stupid me, right? And, I was really angry about it. His family, of course, they didn't care. They tried to make it seem like it was all my fault, right? And I remember them saying, he cheated on her twice? Because there were two different females involved. You see, one was the gal that he had, moved into my house and kicked me and our son out for, right? And then he was hooking up with another girl who was underage. And, I remember when my ex-brother-in-law was like, because this was a friend of theirs who they were, telling, my business to right in front of me, right? And my brother-in-law's like, oh, no, he only cheated on her with the one person. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. They really don't have any sense of morality anyways. Why am I surprised, that my brother-in-law would say that at that time? You know what I mean? I remember that blew my mind. But then again, like I said, I was not walking with God at all. I really wasn't. I was a Christian, but a very backslidden, I'm going to do what I feel like doing kind of Christian, you know what I mean? Which in the long run, it really messed my life up. So, let's see, separated, blah, blah. Okay, here we go. I lost my place. How could I possibly start healing when there was no resolution or restitution or reconciliation with Art or the others who hurt me? I thought everything needed to be settled. I thought those who did wrong things would first realize they were wrong. Or at least some kind of justice would tilt my upside down world back in place. And something about this would feel fair. Then I would consider forgiveness. And then I could possibly heal. But as my counselor kept talking, I started to realize I might never feel like things were fair. Even if every best case scenario played out with the people who hurt me suddenly being utterly repentant and owning every bit of all they'd done, that wouldn't undo what happened. That wouldn't erase the damage. That wouldn't take away the memories. That wouldn't instantly heal me or make any of this feel right. And chances were most of the big situations where I got hurt were not going to play out in best case scenarios. Big conflicts are rarely that tidy. Therefore, I had to separate my healing from their choices. My ability to heal cannot depend on anyone's choices but my own. I remember exactly where I was standing when I finally realized what my counselor Jim had been trying to teach me about separating my healing from others' choices. I was in Israel. It was a hot day. I wanted the guide to hurry up and finish what he was saying so we could go somewhere cooler, but when he said something that jolted me, Jesus didn't perform very many healing miracles in Jerusalem, or at least not ones that were recorded. My whole life, when I read about the miracles of Jesus, I imagined most of them occurring in and around the city of Jerusalem. I'd been to the Holy Land to study the Bible many times, but it wasn't until my 8th trip, that the guide pointed this out. If you're reading the book of John, there are only 2 recorded healing miracles of Jesus performed in Jerusalem. One was the healing of the lame man at the pool of Bethesda, recorded in John 5. The other was the healing of the blind man at the pool of Siloam in John 9. In both cases, their healing came after a choice they made to obey the Lord, a choice not dependent on anyone else's actions. At first, the lame man thought he needed the cooperation of other people to help him get to the water where the angel stirred it, according to the superstition believed by many. So when Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be healed?" the lame man's response wasn't yes. Instead, he gave Jesus an excuse based on the fact that no one would help him get to the water. Isn't it amazing that the man was so focused on what others needed to do that he almost missed what Jesus could do? This challenges me on so many levels. I haven't been paralyzed like this man, but I very much know what it feels like to be unable to move forward without other people cooperating like I think they should cooperate. Jesus, however, never commented about the people on whom the paralyzed man seemed so fixated. Jesus simply instructed him to get up, pick up his bed, also called a mat, and walk. The Bible then says, "And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked." John 5:9 ESV. The healing didn't involve anyone but the paralyzed man and Jesus. Oops, let me check the time. Let's see. Oy, okay, I got a few more minutes. I'm going to read as much as I can, then I gots to go. The other miracle with the blind man is found in John 9. We don't read much regarding the blind man's thoughts about others around him, but we do read that the disciples very much wanted to know whose actions caused the blindness. Someone needed to be blamed. Someone was at fault. Jesus blew that assumption apart. He didn't place blame or shame on anyone. He said this man's blindness happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. John 9:3. Jesus then spat onto the ground, mixed up some mud, and rubbed it into the blind man's eyes, instructing him to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. Jesus had compassion. Jesus had the power. Jesus didn't make healing contingent on the other people doing or owning anything. Jesus gave the instruction. The blind man obeyed. Jesus healed. The blind man moved forward. Standing in Jerusalem that day, my guide continued, in the Gospel of John, there were only 2 recorded healing miracles of Jesus in Jerusalem. One showed us a new way to walk. The other showed us a new way to see. I'm not sure of all the nuances he intended with that statement. But for me, I couldn't grab my journal to record this revelation fast enough. And I wrote, for me to move forward, for me to see beyond this current darkness is between me and the Lord. I don't need to wait on others to do anything or place blame or shame that won't do anyone any good. I simply must obey whatever God is asking of me right now. God has given me a new way to walk, and God has given me a new way to see. It's forgiveness, and it is beautiful. I have to place my healing in the Lord's hands. I need to focus on what I can do to step toward Him in obedience, and forgiveness is what He's asking of me. Okay, guys, I am done for now. Thank you for joining me as I read the book Forgiving What You Can't Forget. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I'm looking to gain, I'd love to have 1,000 subscribers by the end of January 2025, and y'all can make that happen. Subscribing to my channel is free. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out a bunch. That being said, God bless you. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.